So I want to talk about how I've been creating or cultivating a state of inner peace for myself. It's something that my focus has been on a lot lately, and so I wanted to share with you like the routines that I've been doing, just the kind of things that I've been utilizing to be able to cultivate this state of peace for myself. But before I get into explaining all the routines that I do, there's a couple of things that I wanted to make clear. The first one is that you have to be intentional in order to create like a place where peace can freely flow, or a place where you feel comfortable enough that you can have that state of inner peace. You have to be intentional about it. You can't just wait around for things or experiences or situations to happen that will elicit feelings of peace. But don't get me wrong, like things like that actually do happen. But what I'm saying is that you should not just be relying on that to happen for you. In order to create or cultivate, that's why I say cultivate peace, is because it's something that takes a lot of intention. It's something that takes a lot of kind of like trial and error, or curating to, your own unique preferences. Things that I do might look similar to things that you do, and maybe we'll do some of the same things, but ultimately things that will bring me that inner peace are going to be different than the practices that you would do to cultivate your own inner peace. Another thing that I've come to understand is that you shouldn't be going into this with the expectation that doing these routines every single day and adding this stuff into your schedule is going to bring you into a place of continual inner peace, like a state of nirvana or, ecstasy like that. This is something that, this is why I say you have to learn how to curate it, because you're human and you're living this human experience, so you're always going to be experiencing these ranges of emotions, negative and positive. And so to think that doing these things are going to make you just enlightened and in a continual state of bliss is an unattainable goal. And even if you were to get there, it's very unsustainable, because you're human and you're going to be experiencing these emotions. So what this is really doing is teaching you practices, or figuring out practices for yourself to be able to cultivate that inner peace when you are going through hard times, when you are going through struggles, because stuff like that is always going to happen. So just an important thing to understand, don't go into this with unrealistic expectations, is basically what I'm saying there. So some of the things that I do, I wrote them down. Some of the things that I do to create this space of peace for myself, one of the first things that I turn to is meditation. Meditation has always been a practice for me that brings that inner peace very, very quickly. And I've actually come to find out that most of these practices that I do, the reason why they bring me so much peace is because they put me into a meditative state. They're things that are very calming, things that I can take very slow, and things that I can be intentional about. So whenever I go into these practices, it is with the intention that these things that I'm doing are going to bring me peace. And so the first thing that I turn to is meditation. I've kind of turned my porch, my patio area, into a spot that I can go out and I feel instantly calm and grounded. And a really cool thing that I've noticed happening is that the more that I've gone out there and kind of dedicated that space to where I meditate and where I journal, it's really turned that entire place, it's transformed the energy there for me. So when I walk into that space, even if I'm not using it for one of these practices, it still brings me that feeling of peace. It still brings me that grounding and calm feeling. And it's because I associate that space with doing these intentional practices. And so the areas around my house where I do these different things, they all elicit that sort of feeling, that response, I guess, within myself, which is just a really cool thing that I've noticed happening. I've turned that patio into my spot where I can meditate and I can journal, and I just go out there and I don't really have any expectations. When meditating, my only expectation is that it will bring me inner peace, and I go in with that intention and I just kind of just see what happens. I use that time to focus on bringing awareness to my body and my breath. I just kind of use that as a time to check in with myself and see how I'm feeling, see if there's like any areas of tension within myself that I can let go of. And a lot of the times I use that meditation to visualize things that I want for myself. I visualize feelings and feel emotions like gratitude and happiness and love whenever I'm meditating. And so yeah, that's one practice that brings me a lot of inner peace. The next practice that I do is journaling. And journaling is something that I have always done. It doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody enjoys writing. And honestly, I don't even really enjoy writing that much with a pen and a paper. I much prefer typing, and it's because whenever I'm writing, my brain is moving too fast, like faster for me to write the thoughts out. And so all of my journaling, it starts out very neat and then it gets like just scribbly and pretty much illegible at the end. But that's okay, because the entire point of journaling for me is just to be able to get things out. I don't necessarily have to go back and be able to read them later. When I'm able to just write down how I'm feeling, it really brings me into the present moment and more into the awareness of how I'm feeling in that moment. And so anything that I can do that can bring me into the present moment is going to be very grounding for me and is going to make me feel at peace. Another daily thing that I do is taking a shower. Taking a shower is like, it's like a spa day for me. It's like just another form of meditation where I can be calm and still and be very intentional with what I'm doing. I use that time when I shower to envision just washing off the day. Since I work during the daytime and come home in the afternoon, I always have to take a shower when I get home and kind of just wash off the day, and allows me to step into a fresh new moment with a new perspective and a new attitude and energy. And so taking a shower is something that might not seem like that big of a deal, but to me, oh my gosh, it makes me feel so grounded and it brings me so much peace. So I've really turned my shower time, I have my routine down in such a way that it is like a meditation for me. And along those lines, doing my skincare is another one of those things that brings me inner peace. It's one of those just like repetitive things that I can be really intentional and slow about. Another time that I can take to just like check in with my skin and my body and just understand how I'm feeling and become more aware of like any problems that I'm having, or like in any areas that I'm doing really well, and I can appreciate that within myself. So doing skincare is just another thing that just makes me feel really good. It makes me feel very peaceful. I can just close my eyes and be slow and just like, it truly is so funny thinking about how all these things are really, it's just like a meditation for me. All of these actions, these routines that I do are in such a way that it makes me feel like that peace that I get from meditating. Another thing that I'll do, this practice called the Rampage of Gratitude. The Rampage of Gratitude is kind of like a little game that you can play, but basically what it is, and I got this from Abraham Hicks, it's in one of the books that I'm reading, Ask and It Is Given. So the Rampage of Gratitude is essentially you look around you in your environment. The purpose of this is to bring you into the present moment and to help you feel gratitude. But you just look around you in your environment and you find something that is beautiful to you, something that makes you feel happy, something that makes you feel calm. It's not about looking at something, broken and trying to fix it or trying to find and see the beauty within things, but you're just looking for something that naturally brings those feelings about for you. And so when you see that object or whatever it is that you notice, you just look at it and you appreciate the beauty of it. You become aware of how you're feeling better, how your mood is starting to lift, how you are becoming more in the present moment. You really just sit and feel those emotions of gratitude, and you become aware and acknowledge when you feel yourself feeling better than you did when you first started. So I just look around me in my environment and I notice things that I think are beautiful. I see my plants, I see the sun shining through the window and hitting the leaves of my plants. I like to look at the shadows that are cast on the wall that look really beautiful, or the lights on the balcony that are on. Sometimes I'll see a hummingbird outside the window or my wind chimes. So I just look at things like that and I just am still for a minute. I just allow myself to be calm and to be present and feel those feelings of gratitude. And that's one thing that really helps me feel that inner peace. And then the last thing that I wrote down was, this is a practice that I've been doing for a long time now, but I'm just really careful in what I consume. And by that I mean in every aspect, really. What I eat, I try and be really careful in what I eat, although that's something that I've been working on a lot lately because I haven't been as good as that, or as good about that. I'm really careful about like the music that I listen to. Most of the time I don't listen to music. I'll listen to like meditation music, something without words, like binaural beats, or I just sit in silence. When I'm in the car driving somewhere, I turn off the radio. I don't have any music playing and I just sit in silence. And I've always used that time to like do affirmations or just envision things that I want and work on manifesting my goals. I've been doing that for about like 3 or 4 years now. But that's something that I do. I'm really careful in what I consume, and that even has to do with, you know, conversations that I have, that I partake in, things that I hear people saying. If it's not something that, you know, I feel I'm benefiting from, then I won't partake. And I think a big thing, or a big reason for this, is because I'm very, very sensitive to the energies around me. And I don't know if that's because like I'm empathetic or what that is, but I've just always been very sensitive to the energies around me, and I feel myself like kind of absorbing the energies that I'm around. And so if I'm around things that, you know, aren't very beneficial to me, then I start to feel not so good, and vice versa. And so that's why I'm really careful about the things that I consume, because I'm like a sponge to that kind of stuff. And so if I want to be peaceful, then I know that I need to consume things that feel peaceful to me. And that's why most of the time I listen to meditation music or I sit in silence, because silence just brings me so much peace and grounding. And so that's something that I've been really careful with and very mindful of, is just being intentional with the things that I consume, because the things that you take in is all feeding your spirit. And so it all affects you, even if you don't really realize it. I've become very in tune with just like background noise. And I've become very sensitive to just like noises around me. And I feel like myself getting kind of overstimulated more easily than I did even a few years ago. And I think it's just because I'm much more in tune with the energies and vibrations around me, that when something is not in alignment to, you know, how I want to feel, then I'm very much aware of that, and I feel that within myself. So I think that was the last thing that I had. Yeah. But anyways, I hope that those were helpful. I would just, you know, keep in mind that some of these practices that work for me are not going to work for you. So just be open-minded to that, and you can take this as like a guide to maybe try some new things out, or, you know, however, you just kind of really have to curate this to yourself. And it's such a beautiful thing, because everybody's, you know, way of finding peace and cultivating like this space for themselves is going to be completely unique. And I think it's really beautiful what you can do to a space to make it feel peaceful to you and grounding and calm. I hope this was helpful, or at least inspirational, something. But anyways, I will be back, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day.